Solar energy has certainly been sort of the term for the future, isn't it? When it comes to conservation of energy, just last week we had the C40 mayoral meetings happening here in South Africa, mega cities getting together, attempting to understand but also work out a way in which they can conserve and therefore use less energy so that we have more for the future. Is it all possible? We're told that it is. However, it's going to take certain, I guess, projects to make it happen, certain buy-ins from governments, that's for sure, as well as us as individuals. Greener leaving is a key word on almost everyone's lips, I am told. And in the studio with us now we have Dick Berlijn, who is from Subsolar, working on a conference which begins tomorrow to begin to look at the future of South Africa from a solar perspective. Tell us more.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are from Subsolar. We are sponsoring the event tomorrow, the Solar Future Conference, where we'll be looking at how South Africa can both achieve a greener future when it comes to electricity supply and at the same time stay competitive as a country and actually secure the energy supply of the country for future times to come.
Dick, can I just ask, are people interested in conserving energy and in what solar has to offer in South Africa?
Yes, we see a very big interest of people from actually both your private households to your large companies and actually also at government level. There's a very big interest in solar energy and renewable energy in general. And we therefore see a very good future ahead. There is already a buy-in. It's now more a question of how do we address certain practical, commercial and legislative issues to make sure that the future is paved for more implementation of solar energy into the South African energy mix.
Now, a very important component of the introduction of solar energy is, of course, government. How will they be participating in the meetings to come, and how have they been participating in the conversations around solar thus far?
The South African government has been very active and very constructive actually in the implementation of solar in South Africa. In 2011 they released the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Program, where they've opened the electricity generation market for private for companies in effect to supply solar energy and also other renewable sources into the electricity mix, and in that way actually contribute to both a greening of the society of the energy mix and at the same time to make sure that there is sufficient energy in place. It's a very strong and good focus by Treasury, Environment and Department of Energy all together, and we do see a very it's a very good roadmap that's currently on the table.
Don't you wish they could roll this out a little quicker and less talking, more implementation? I'm just thinking about it in the context of the service delivery, for example, protests and the friction and the emotion that is around energy and energy delivery in South Africa.
Yeah, it is, of course, you know, as a developer, we always would like things to go quicker. What we do see is, though, is that in other countries where these type of programs were rolled out, government in the beginning was too enthusiastic almost and opened it up completely, which in the end led to an unsustainable industry. So the way it's being done in South Africa might be not as fast as we would have liked, but it does create that there's a sustainable energy market that's going to be lasting, you know, many years ahead. But yeah, one of the things that we are hoping for is that currently there is still the municipalities buy their electricity from Eskom and then they resell it with a markup, which means that as project developers it's hard for us to get into municipalities and to supply to companies there, because the municipalities see it as a threat that we take their income away. And if either something is changed in the legislation that, you know, it's not eating into the municipal revenue, or if actually it can be seen as Eskom integrated delivery into the municipality, it would make a huge change also on municipal levels.
Right, so the business model for the municipalities has not been sorted out yet.
Correct, yeah. On a national level it is pretty sorted out. We develop our projects in mostly very rural and hot and desolate areas, as in the Northern Cape, parts of the Northwest, and there we feed straight into the Eskom grid, and that project or that process has now been running 3 rounds and it's getting more and more smooth. But particularly within municipalities, it is still a challenge of how to fit it in on the legislative side and also in regards to the energy regulator with NERSA.
All right, so 2 days of meetings. Who's participating in these meetings?
Correct. We have very interesting speakers. We have National Treasury speaking. We have Eskom available. We have, so in effect, the condition setting sides, Eskom and Treasury. We have, of course, the private sector. We have banks, but we also have large energy users, such as PPC is available there, the energy intensive user group. Several mines are attending. So for us, that's also a good sign to see that the whole solar focus is moving away from being subsidy driven and policy driven to actually just also being supported by large industry and other industries.
So the big users, it's very important to get them involved. Won't that bring down the cost for me in the end as an ordinary person? Yes,
it certainly does. I have to say that actually the way it's currently already being set up in the South African scheme of things at the government, in other countries they put a fixed tariff in place that everybody gets the same amount of money. And it was very advantageous for private companies because we all knew what we were getting. In South Africa they've turned it around and said, you as a private company you have to bid. And you have to comply with very stringent localization rules. You have to create jobs within 50 kilometers of your plant. And by making it a bidding process, the price of solar energy is currently that we generate electricity cheaper than the new coal-fired power stations that come online. So for example, in round 3, which was in October last year, the prices of the projects that were being bid then were between 85 cents and 1 rand 10 per kilowatt hour, while it's projected that Medupi will be producing at 97 cents per kilowatt hour. So competitiveness in the solar industry, we have already been able to press down the price significantly, where we are now competitive to actually your original energy sources.
Is it a competitive business to be in?
Yes, it's a very competitive business to be in. When it started, we had a lot of interest from Germany, from Spain, from Italy, the US, China. So the original projects were all developed by companies from that side. But now we see that the South African players are getting bigger, stronger, more mature.
Clever, I hope. More innovative.
Exactly. And that's particularly the word that you mentioned, innovative, is where, particularly on the financing side, originally these big projects were seen as large infrastructure projects. You need the big banks to get involved. And what we now are able to do is to look at other countries where they've come up with innovative solutions like leasing, buy to lease. You get large communities investing in it and seeing it as a very stable asset that gives you a stable return out. And that's where I think the next step lies. How do we do the financing of these things that we're not just dependent on the large banks, but for example, communities or groups of people can go together and say, look, we together want to put our money in an asset that is actually good for our environment and at the same time profitable. We might not be looking at 25-30% profitability, but I'd rather put my money in a solar plant which will give me 12-13% than put it in the bank where I only get 7-8%.
Is this one of the first big dialogues, public dialogues that are being had, and where is it happening so that people can stay in touch with the issue?
It's not one of the first. The company organizing at Solar Plaza was one of the first here. It's happening in Sandton tomorrow and Wednesday. Tomorrow is mainly for meetings and presentations. It's in the Hilton Hotel. And on Wednesday, actually, there's a site visit to several rooftop installations. So for companies that have already taken the step and said, solar power is good for my PR, it's good for my company, and it's making financial sense.
Okay, good for my PR, good for my company, and good for the country, actually. Where we have electricity shortage as it is, we know the conventional methods, certainly at now, it seems, is not working, but there is an election pending, so there might be more noise than necessary. But Dick Berlijn in the studio with us here from Subsolar, Managing Director, having meetings on solar energy, the future of South Africa's solar energy. Tomorrow at the Hilton Hotel in Sandton, if anyone is interested in joining them. It's a hot topic at the moment. Excuse the pun.